Hey, Regina Perkins. So today you were on your second TV show?
Okay, this is right now I'm here in Houston, Texas. Sienna Plantation, which is a master plan community here in Houston, Texas. I hope my camera's not shaky. Give me a minute to just kind of stabilize it here. But what you're looking at right now, I can't get into it. There's additional videos I'm gonna add in here, but this right here is an old sugar mill. This master plan community was built, and unbeknownst to them all, hidden right in the middle of this was an old sugar mill, one of the only one that we know that is standing and still intact like this. It is sitting right now in this master plan community, which was once the Arcola, was a plantation that was owned by the Waters family. It's right in Arcola, Texas, kind of in this location. But he had one of the largest plantations here in Texas, one of the most brutal plantations here in Texas. And this is one of the old sugar barns, the sugar mill that is left, and it has specialized floors. This is still standing totally intact. Earlier I showed you the barn, the old steam engine that sits beside it. But this is the actual mill. They won't let anybody go in there. Archaeologists have asked to go in and look at it, and they've refused to let them do that. So they're trying to save this from being torn down. With this property being owned by this community, the Sienna Plantation Corporation, they have the rights to do whatever they want to do with this. But there are previous pictures before this property was bought where people were allowed to go in there. There was a volunteer community, and they went in and put that roof that you see now. But the inside of it still has artifacts. There were sugar bowls that were found in there. And they found things that were just still there. So this is the history of this plantation area. We see houses that are like, we're talking about not small houses. These are over what $500,000 homes were in this community. And here sits this plantation, remnants of what was left. As you can see, there's the old trees there with the Spanish moss hanging. And the Waters family was said to have one of the most brutal plantations ever. And so this is a remnant of what was left of that sugar mill. I wish we could get up in here, but we did a lot of finagling just to find it, just to get around to where we could get this close to it. Because of the restrictions, the property is you're not allowed. But the previous owners, you were allowed to do that and go up in there, probably because its houses were not here. But yeah, so I think I've zoomed in as much as I can on that. So it's an interesting piece of history here, sitting right here in Houston, Texas. What was the Arcola plantation? So the Waters plantation, rather. So yeah, there it is, an old sugar mill, one of the last, and they're trying their best to get some kind of possession and rights to this, that it can stay standing and not be torn down. There are sugar bowls that are at the Sienna Park. Maybe I'll go find those, the giant sugar bowls that they used. They did take those out, and there's a place here in the community where they have those. Maybe I can find out where they are, and I can get some footage of that also. Okay, I just want to share this with you. It's very interesting. A piece of history that we should just keep up with and just know some of the things that our ancestors went through in times of slavery, and this is still standing. So those homemade bricks that you see were made by the slaves. Everything that you see was the work of the slave, and then they worked in them day and night. So I'm going to see if I can't find those sugar bowls. Okay guys, I'm back here. I'm here at the Sienna History Park. I told you guys earlier about let's see if I can get my exposure good. I told you guys earlier about the sugar bowls that they took out of the old antebellum sugar perjury that I showed you in the earlier videos. These are the sugar bowls that they found inside of the sugar perjury. Let me get a little closer so you can see them. And there's the history talking about the sugar bowls. It says this Kentucky #2 725-pound sugarcane mill was produced by the Blimer Ironworks around 1888 to 1905. This type of mill was used to crush sugarcane that was planted and harvested in this region in the mid-1800s. The mill was driven by 2 mules attached to either side of the mill, turning it in a circle. So these are the sugar bowls from that antebellum sugar perjury, where sugar was made. Harvesting sugarcane was one of the most brutal tasks ever. If you look at the size of these bowls, these bowls were found inside of that, in that old barn, in that old sugar perjury, and the floors had a specialized floor. They're not, as I said earlier, this is a rare find because no one thought in the United States that any of these old sugar mills was left. This one is pretty much well intact, that it was even so preserved that these bowls were in there. And there's 3 giant bowls. Can you imagine that these hot bowls, how big these bowls was, and working with this kind of equipment? Amazing, amazing. And when we look at this, I mean, wow, this is amazing. So they did bring them and put them in the history part, thank God, to preserve them. But just the thought of these 3 sugar bowls from the sugar mill, and look at this beautiful master plan community. I think my lighting may be a little off, but we are surrounded by beautiful waterfalls, $500,000 homes here. It is a very solemn sight to see in this beautiful community, at the tennis courts, surrounded with landscapers, people fishing off the lakes and ponds, and you see the solemn scene like 3 sugar bowls from where the slaves actually their hands touched these bowls, guys. This is amazing. This is something that, I mean, this land that you're looking at now with the old trees hanging with the Spanish moss, which is a very solemn sight, because when you think about those Spanish moss trees, you think about those that were hung in those trees, and what you see, beautiful land and rolling hills were plantations and crops of sugar cane with slave quarters and those who were working the mill, not by choice but by force. And in the middle of all this was built on the back of the slaves, and now we're fighting to preserve these glorious artifacts that are left behind. The only thing that shows us what was left of that period in that history, we're fighting to, so we'll know what our ancestors went through. And it was greediness then for the slaves to have to work free labor. You would be rich too if the labor was free. And the same greediness then that caused this terrible part and stain on our history is the same greediness we see right now, trying to preserve these old bowls and that sugar mill that is sitting there unattended, not even letting anybody go in to do excavations and archaeological finds in there just to tell us a small part of our history, just because they said no. They have the right to tear that old boiler down, that old sugar mill, those barns down. So we're grateful that we still found that it's still there, and that we can, from a distance, because I was from a long distance zooming in, see that. So what a day in history. I was glad to find this out, even though I've lived here for 20 years and I did not know any of this, that there was a plantation here, that all this area out here in Arcola, Sienna Plantation, Fort Bend, all of those back off in there was where the slaves were on those plantations. And it's a solemn sight to see while these men are busy at work beautifying this beautiful scene that we see by the water. We see yet again the sadness of these 3 bowls that our own ancestors touched. So I must walk up on it one more time so you could just see how huge those bowls are. Look at that. And as I touch it now, it brings chills up your spine to think that they work with these bowls my ancestors. If you're African American, then you understand that this is, it brings you closer and it really makes you think. Under this old tree here that's almost wrapped around it. There's even lights here in the trees at that position at nighttime. They shine on these bowls. Wow, 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 wow. We'd love to come in here at night and see that sight. So, guys, stay intact with your history. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little piece of history. I hope to do more and go to some more of the, travel to some of the other slave quarters and some of the other plantations around here, just so you can see a part of your history. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you were able to gain something from this site. There's a picture of that tree hanging with the Spanish moss there. This is amazing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you guys can be notified when I do upload any new videos or footage. So thank you guys for watching my channel. God bless you. Have a blessed day.